I see you. Okay, good. Delighted to see Terry. Just what a great inspiration he is, and delighted to be here. I'm honored to be here. I'm grateful to be here. And Vision's vision, that kind of goes together, doesn't it? So Vision's vision, to have me here, I'm very grateful for that. It kind of came out of left field and was a high compliment to come in and be a part of this exciting fest that's going on here. I've learned a couple of things already, and that is I've got to add to my vocabulary friggin'. So I got to go look it up first, you know. But I noticed that that's a very popular word around here. So raise your hand if you've had a positive experience in the last 60 days prior to coming here. Okay, look around. Okay, is there anybody that needs to borrow one? All right. Again, next question. Raise your hand if you can remember the positive experience. Now, why would I ask that? Put them down. Why would I ask that question? Why would I ask the question if you can remember that? Because so many people move through this life not capturing the positive things that are around them. We move at such a fast speed. We've had so many things hitting us faster than we've ever had before. We experience more in a year of our life than our ancestors experienced in 100 years. And yet, do we really capture all of the wonderful things that are happening around us? Do we really know how to capture the things that are around us? Do our children, do the youth of America, the youth of the world, the youth in these different countries, do they know how to capture the positive things that are going on around them? Do our business leaders, our political leaders, do they know how to capture the positive things that are going around them? Vision shared a number of the discoveries that have been coming out lately about the concepts of happiness and gratitude and being able to find these little nuggets that are around us. It's not that easy. It's not that easy. And when you really look at gratitude, there's really 4 levels of gratitude. Level number 1 is ingratitude. Okay? How many of you know people that are ungrateful? Okay? Do you enjoy being around them? Okay, so would you call them an attractant or a repellent? Okay, they don't attract great opportunities to them. They don't attract great relationships to them. So people, well, you might say that people that are grateful then would do just the opposite. People that are grateful will attract great opportunities into their lives. They'll attract greater opportunities into their lives as well. But what is gratitude? What is gratitude? So there's another level of gratitude that we might call social gratitude. Say please and thank you. Now, we usually notice when somebody does not say please and thank you. We may not always notice when they do say please and thank you. But it's something that don't we teach that to our children? At an early age, we try to teach them, make sure you say thank you, make sure you say please. And so you move into that space of being grateful. We want our children to be children that are grateful. We want to associate with people that say please and thank you. And candidly, you're welcome. That's another step. Because so much of our language also diminishes other people's gratitude. In Espanol, what do we say in Espanol? When somebody says gracias, what do we say? De nada. And ¿qué quiere decir de nada? What does that mean? For nothing. Okay, for nothing. What do we do in English? That was a great speech. That was nothing. You know, no big deal. You're diminishing my gratitude. You want to elevate gratitude. So when somebody gives you a compliment, somebody says, that was very nice of you, no matter how you might feel about it, acknowledge that by saying, thank you, you're welcome. You're welcome. They go together. They go hand in glove. So that's the social gratitude. Then we reach the next gratitude, which is appreciative gratitude, where you really, truly start to appreciate the things. But be careful. Be careful here. If I Google gratitude quotes, do you know how many quotes I'm going to get in a fraction of a second? Millions. It's becoming very popular. And so it's becoming what I call the platitude of gratitude. Be careful. Because what does it really mean? How sincere is it? Are you doing it? Why are you doing it? Well, it's a wonderful thing. I wake up in the morning and I say, this is a great place I live. Look at the beautiful sky. The birds are singing. It's great. I'm healthy. It's wonderful. Isn't this great? That's gratitude. Now I move out into the world and I start seeing the different people around me and I start acknowledging these great things that they're doing. Be careful. Make it meaningful. Because at some point, why are you saying it? We're even told to say it because. Be grateful because you will get things coming to you. So who are you doing it for? Have you ever done something for somebody and they didn't acknowledge it? And you said, I'm not doing anything for that person again. You ever done that? So why did you do it in the first place? Why did you do it in the first place? For you, or was it for them? So there is another level of gratitude. And that gratitude is one where you're willing to give unconditionally. Where you can just give because you love giving, because you're part of the family, and it's who becomes who you are. Now, candidly, that's a difficult space to live in because we're human beings. We're not wired for that way. We're born coming out of the womb not saying thank you. We're saying feed me. It's all about me, and that's a gift, by the way. That's a gift to love yourself because it's all about you to begin with. And we have to learn how to love others. Maybe that's one of the reasons that we're here. Maybe we're here to learn about others. How do we really learn about others? To be able to give of ourselves unconditionally. They call it agape in the Greek religion. In Israel, it's called tzedakah, giving unconditionally. In the Christian religion, we call it the charity or the pure love of Christ. The willingness to give without expecting anything in return. And so gratitude is a marvelous thing. And so we have a tradition in our family. We call it, it's a principle, if you will. It's a concept. We say we always go big. We always go big. And when we go big, we always go big. And what that means is we always begin in gratitude. Okay? We always begin in gratitude. Now, if you start asking yourself, if you're going to go big and you start asking yourself, how can I go big? What if it's a tough situation? What if you're in an argument with somebody? What if it's somebody that's betrayed you? What if it's anything? If you start asking a new question, how do I go big? Then you're going to get some answers. Can I go big? Can I go big? Then you're even going to get some better answers. Can I begin in gratitude? Watch what happens when you start asking that kind of a question. Amazing things will happen. So in our family, several years ago, we developed a tradition about going big. We said, before you can complain, we all agreed, before we can complain, 3 positive things that we have to say before you. Now, you think that's easy? I'm coming home from work. Walk in the door. How's been your day today? Ugh, you're not going to believe. No. 3 positive things. What happens after you share 3 positive things? Yeah, it just completely changes. Now imagine taking that down into your kids. Imagine having that experience with your kids where you start saying, before you can complain, 3 positive things. So I decided that's what I was going to start, a tradition in our family. We were going to start saying 3 positive things before he said anything negative. And we were going to do it, we made a tradition that we would do it anytime we got together as a family. So anytime we were together as a family, we're at meal or something like that, at the start of it, we would say 3 positive things. Now I'm going to give you a clue. And this is 4 words that if you'll remember these 4 words are very, very powerful. So I started out like this. These are not the 4 words. They're over here. I'll talk about them in just a second. I started out with some different words. I've got an idea. My kids don't like those words. Here's something I want you to do. They don't like those words. You see, they don't like those words. But that's the words I used in this particular occasion because I didn't know about these 4 words. So I'm using these words over here. And so I came out and said, this is what we're going to do. I think it's a good idea. Well, they don't like that. We start, when we have a meal, we're going to share 3 positive things before we eat dinner. Fair enough? Whatever. So that's the way it started. And I still remember my daughter, my teenage daughter. I wish I'd have started this big because then they tend to just do it, you know, but they were this big. So my teenage daughter, she looks at it and she just says, well, I went to school, big deal. Now, I have a choice at that moment. You backhand her, get over the top of her and tell her, how could you not think of anything that you're grateful for? Look at all the wonderful things that you have and you start lecturing them. Or you could begin in gratitude and say, thank you for trying to think about something. I know it must be difficult at times. And let it go. Don't jump in her box. Thank you for thinking about it. Do I ever want her to think about it again? The way to keep her from thinking about it again is to lose my cool, get mad at her, and try and make it a deal, big deal, because she'll stick her feet in the ground. I mean, she's stuck. I can't move her. So go back to gratitude. So now, afterwards, here come the 4 words. I learned so much from these 4 words. Afterwards, put my arm around her. Say, honey, you need to understand something. This is really important to your dad. And I'm going to do this every time we get together as a family. And your brothers and sisters really look up to you. They model you. They think about everything that you do. And since this is important, here they come. Would you be willing, very powerful words, would you be willing to support your dad and just think of 1 or 2 things that you're grateful for, even if you can't think of something that happened? Would you be willing to do that? That's so much easier for her to say yes to. I opened the door for her to say yes, and she walked right in. It's an amazing experience. So would you be willing? Think about those words and see if they don't become powerful words for you. She said, okay. So for a while, she did make an attempt, and I don't think she did a very good job at it, but she did make the attempt. And I would say, thank you for trying, or thank you for really thinking that through. But then one day something happened, and it's not just a little thing. It had to be a major thing. It might have been a little thing she was grateful for, but something happened inside of her that changed her forever. The same thing that happened to each one of our kids that changed them forever. And that was she came in and said, can I be first? What happened? She moved from being reactive to where her eyes and her ears started looking for things that were positive. Because you don't see with your eyes and your ears. You only see and hear what your subconscious mind tells you to see and hear. So she had never told herself to look for the positive things. So your subconscious mind, which handles about 11 million bits of information a second, didn't look for it for her. It's not going to serve you unless you let it know what you want it to look for. So all of a sudden we had this change that happened. And it was absolutely magic. So we've developed this tradition over years. Now, let me tell you what we're going to be talking about in the next 37 minutes. I'm going to share with you 6 keys of success. And I'm going to give them to you in a way that some of them that you've never heard before. You're going to hear them a little bit differently than you ever heard before, okay? And we talked about one of them is go big. So I'm going to substitute another thing in there that's called the empowering question. If you catch the empowering question, it will change your experience at Awesome Fest today. It'll change you this moment. This is where all of our researchers are all doing. This is where our next book's going to be on. This is so extremely powerful. The second thing we're going to talk about is making your future bigger than your past. How do you make your future bigger than your past? And you can only do that if you know your personal essential, what's essential to you. Because if you know what's essential to you, then you can say no to the very important. Part of our problem and challenges in today's world is there's so many very important things that we could lend our time, energy, attention, and resources to. And then we justify by lowering our standards down to our level of behavior. And we get involved with it and we say, well, that's very important. But is that your individual big why? Is that what makes it? And if you don't have that why, you can't make accurate decisions in the current, in the present. If you don't know your big why. And I see this all the time. I get the opportunity to coach business people all the time, entrepreneurs. What a wonderful spot that I'm in. I have them coming every 90 days, every month. I sit down for 3 days with at least 30 entrepreneurs from around the world that are highly successful. They come back every quarter. So I've seen some of them for 10 years running, 12 years running, every quarter. And the exchange of ideas that I get to swim in, the energy I get to swim in is just amazing. The learning that I get is absolutely amazing. Then I spend the rest of the month in my regular job, which is working with families, working with businesses, helping them become like the ones that I spend 3 days with. That's what I love doing, and I'm very passionate about it. How do we take this thing, take it to another level? So make your future bigger than your past. Second thing, always make your learning greater than the experience. Number 3, always make your learning greater than the experience. Okay? Number 4, and I'll write some of these down in a little bit. Number 4, then as we go through this is going to be surrender but don't give up. Critical. There's an element of entrepreneurs that's called rugged individualism. And rugged individualism is your enemy. I can do it by myself. It's easier for me to do it than delegate it to somebody else. I got this idea. I'm afraid to share this idea because somebody else will steal it. It's that rugged individualism and the ability to completely surrender to a higher power first, and foremost, but then to other people that can support you, whether that's through a private coaching, through personal coaching, through alliances, through relationships, but your vision and your mission, if you're going to achieve it, you can't do it by yourself. Not in today's world. It's happening too fast. Cannot do it. Can't do it. Number 5 is Pringles. Okay? Why I think you should throw all your goals away and replace them with Pringles. Okay? Number 6. If you are a true entrepreneur, you're creating more value than you'll ever consume. So for you, there's no such thing as giving back. Okay? For you, there's no such thing as giving back. Now, I'm down to 33 minutes, and I'm going to hit on each one of those pretty hard. So let's talk just a little bit about the positive focus. Let's talk a little bit about going big for just a second. So what do we mean by going big? When I have somebody come into my office, they know that the first thing that they're going to do when they meet with me, or whether I go there, they know the first thing they're going to do is they're going to write down a positive experience and share it. They know that for a fact. Can light and darkness occupy the same space at the same time? Yes or no? Can creativity and negativity occupy the same space at the same time? So is it to my advantage to have my clients thinking about, I know Lee's going to ask me about something positive. Is it to my advantage to have them start thinking as they're heading towards my office, or I'm heading towards their office, to be thinking about what they're going to share? Is it to my advantage to have them do that? Absolutely. Absolutely. Because then they're prepared when they walk in and that creative juice starts to flow. And they know that it's happening. So let me give you a couple examples of this. So I had a client that's from Belgium. And he was flying over to meet with me in Utah, where I currently live now. And so he's there. He walks in my office, and of course he's been thinking about it, and I've been thinking about it because I think it helps me too. I know I'm going to have to share it too. You know what I mean? So I'm preparing. So here's mine. I still remember mine. Mine, I say, just this last weekend, my oldest granddaughter, who is 5 or 6, my oldest granddaughter, scored her very first goal ever. And she knew exactly what to do. She scored it, she turned around, ran with her hand in the air down the thing like this, and I got it all on video. I said it was really cool. Even if it was for the other team, it still was cool. Okay? Because it truly was for the other team. But it was still cool, you know? So, I mean, I'm a grandpa. I didn't care which team it's for, you know? It's my granddaughter doing it. You know, it's good stuff. Okay. He says, just yesterday, some friends of mine got up at midnight. We climbed to the top of the Alps. At daybreak, we watched the sun come up. And I felt his voice start to crack. And he says, the colors coming up off the snow were just absolutely phenomenal. He says, the sky, the feeling. He says, I felt like I was sitting next to God. I said, wow. I had to take a deep breath. I said, Larry, let me understand this. Just yesterday, you were in the Alps sitting next to God. And today you're sitting with me in bountiful Utah talking business. What does your wife know about what happened yesterday? Long pause. She knows I went. What do your children know about what happened to you yesterday? They don't even know I went. And my prediction is you give it another 2-3 weeks from now, he'll forget he went. He'll remember, but he's not capitalizing it and he's not banking the experience. See, he could name that experience, call it the Alps. And he could come up with what that really meant to him. when he realized that maybe God is first before man, or that we should surrender to God. Whatever that message is that he was conveying, that he felt so much in his heart, he could just say from that moment on, if he shared it, if he gave it a life of its own, he could just say to his kids, remember the Alps. And they would catch the emotion of that whole experience. They would own that experience. And our past, by making our past greater than our future, and by taking then and making the learning greater than the experience. You see, the experience was phenomenal. But now he's making the learning greater than the experience. And he named it and branded it. I got a call from my partner in Toronto, from Toronto. Calls me up and he says, Lee, different story. Lee, I have to tell you about this positive experience that I just had. Tell me. And he says, I was the first human being to shake the hand of my grandson this morning. I said, wow, Jay, that's a great story. That's a great story. Why are you grateful for that? And he said, well, and he went on to tell me how it made him love his wife more. He went on to tell me how he loved his daughter more in the spirit of life. And he says, this grandson that's not my grandson, it made him love him more. And I said, that's terrific. Now remember, there's a couple things I asked him. What happened? And then why were you grateful for that? This is a formula for capturing our past and making it stronger. What happened? See, not just what happened, but why are you grateful for that? And that's the capture aspect of things. So you capture back here so that you can then deposit it and use it in the future. Just like my friend Larry did when he captured the Alps experience and called it the Alps and named it the Alps, he's now using that in the future, and it will outlive him. Because his kids will talk to their kids about the Alps. So Jay said, you know what? I remember one of the great experiences when I was growing up. My father made it a habit to introduce me to some of the most famous people that would ever come to town. He would work me to get me up at the front and have them shake my hand. I said, really? Wow. That's terrific. Well, what can you do with that? And he says, well, I'm going to shake the hand of my grandson every year on his birthday. So now a tradition started. There's another clue. What's the action? How do you bank the experience and how do you make it work for you? I'm going to shake the hand of my grandson every year on his birthday. And remind him I was the first human being to shake his hand. Now, how do you get into motion? How do you get into motion? Because motion is the key. So how do you get into motion? He thought about it for a while and he said, I said, are you any guarantee you're going to be here a year from now? No. Why don't you write him a letter and tell him how you feel? Write him a letter and tell him how you feel right now. Tell him about your father and start a tradition called the handshake. And talk about the importance of a handshake. And that with the handshake is one of the ways you become close to greatness. And every time you shook the hand of somebody that your father wanted you to shake the hand with, he was letting you, for that moment, touch greatness. And when you shook the hand of your little grandson, you were only one person away from God. Wow. Now, isn't that amazing? So he's now created a tradition in his family. They call it the handshake. That experience is named, it's known. It carries on a life and will live on forever. We do the same thing in business. When we can have experiences and name them, they become very powerful. If I asked you, are you a Blue Man company or are you a Siegfried and Roy company? Would you know what that meant? But I can communicate the message of that like this. And that is very simple. The Blue Man Group, everybody understand what the Blue Man Group is? Blue Man are those guys that all dressed up like blue and you see them, and doing beating drums and all that kind of stuff. They start out as three guys on a street corner. And they'd get these huge crowds. And this guy that came walking by that had the Astoria Theater said, why don't you come in and jump in my theater? I think we could fill it up. They're still doing that. This was in the 1980s. They're still filling up the theater. Now today, there's like 80 Blue Men around the world. 80 of them. Doing about $100 million a year in revenue. The three original, what do? They do the brainstorming. They do the creating. They do what they do best. They stay in their unique ability and really work in their unique ability to do what they do best. They don't let other people get involved. They just do what they do best. And so they're doing what they do best. And if a blue man gets eaten by a tiger, does the show go on? If you're Siegfried and Roy and you get eaten by a tiger, does the show go on? Are you a Siegfried and Roy organization or are you a blue man organization? You see what I'm saying? And you can start naming these experiences and you can start building them. So the first one we talked about was go big, okay? So when I go like this, everybody say, when I say this, you got to be this. What is it? Say it. Big. Go big, right? You got to go big. Implement that in your life. Develop traditions. Start being the leader in it because not enough people know how. And you can do it through traditions. That's the easiest way. Instead of them thinking you're kind of foo-foo about this thing, just say, I have a tradition. I have a tradition, and we begin every meeting that we start by going big. You did it today when you got up and said, I see you. That was your way of going big. That was your way. It cleaned you. It got all the negativity out. It just cleaned the room out completely. So use it to clean the room out. Let other people go like my daughter did and say, can I be first? Give them the opportunity to change the things that they see and to really move things along. Okay, so going big. Second thing, we talked briefly. Always make your future bigger than your past. In order to do that, 23 minutes. In order to do that, you have to understand what is essential for you. You have to understand what is essential for you. Now, you heard Vishen talk about that it's important to make money. How many of you related to that? He used a word that was a little stronger than frickin' when he said it. Okay? All right, now, let's just kind of back away from that. I'm going to tell you right now that making money is how you do something. And what you do something is that it's all based upon your relationship with the world. And how do you find your unique ability? Every one of you are unique in your own way. And as you find your unique ability and you build unique ability teams around you, then you have the ability to really be unique and the world will come calling. And it just so happens that you make a heck of a lot of money. That's the way that it's measured. But if you keep going out there fighting all the way, just relax and surrender and just kind of let it happen. So find out what's important to you, because if you're going to have a bigger future and you're going to start making decisions in the future. I met with a company just the other day, father, two brothers. They just got offered $125 million for their business. Here's the conversation. Sons, you know I'm getting old, 65. Somebody just came in and offered $125 million. Should we sell? And the conversation, well, gosh, $125 million, Dad? Wow, that's a lot of money. You know, I mean, for everything that we put into it and everything, and how much would that mean for each of us? Okay, and so now the discussion started. And so then the discussion started because of legal structures and stuff like that. One brother was going to get more than the other brother, but wait, I did more work than he did, and away we go. But if he had a bigger future, if that family, that organization had a bigger future of what the future meant, if they understood their why as themselves and the family, they wouldn't be asking whether or not we sell this, because then that's the end. That's the end. What they would be saying is, we have this wonderful future of where we want to go. This is where we want to be, individually and together, right? This is where we want to be. This is what we want to do. Will selling this business allow us to get to here? Faster, better, easier. Will it allow us to make the difference in the world better, faster, easier? If it is, sell it. See, it has nothing to do with how much anybody gets, because it's not the end. So, but if we don't sell it, can we get here? Bigger, faster, better. It sure makes decisions easier in the present if you know where you're going now. So years ago when I started this business, I was in the estate planning business. I did a lot of estate planning. I fell in love with the estate planning business. How does money move through the generations? And then I realized that 97% of all family businesses, family wealth, worldwide, 97% never survives into the third generation. They don't survive that third generation. So why am I doing it? And then I realized there's something bigger than the money. Not that the money doesn't come along, because believe me, it shows up. But it shows up so it's permanent. Because if you don't have everything else squared, then the money's not going to make a hell of a difference anyway. It really isn't. From everything that you know and everything that you've heard here, it's important. So now, So I woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning because I asked the question, what is my stewardship responsibility to wealth and when does it end? Woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning. The answer, I'm in the shower, heading for Atlanta on that day. I'm in the shower. Here comes the answer. When do you get your answers? Okay, good. Well, we should all take a shower together, right? Man, think how smart we'd be. 350 people in the shower. That's what you really call crowd thinking, okay? So I'm on an airplane. I'm sitting next to a wonderful lady, and she asked me what I do. Well, she just came out into me at 4 o'clock in the morning, had the idea, right? And so what I said was, I optimize wealth. And I had to write it on the back of a napkin, because that's all I had. So hence, that's where I wrote it. And I said, when you hear the word wealth, tell me, what do you think of? What do you think she said? Okay. She said, money, real estate, cars, houses, jewelry, 401ks, businesses. What's she talking about there? Things, right? Things. So I said, what you're really saying is that you're talking about your financial wealth, your financial assets, right? Yes. Well, do you have assets that you value more than your financial assets? Health. How many of you would trade your health for more of this? Anybody here? But we all do, don't we, periodically? We get working too long, we're not doing, we do, but that way we get to spend our wealth later. We have something to spend our wealth on later to get our health back. Okay? How about family? Teenagers, maybe, would you trade your teenagers for more money? Would you trade your family for more money? Okay. In an ideal world, no, right? Now, we talked about beliefs otherwise. What about your beliefs? What about your values, let's say? What about your principles? Are there certain principles or values that you would not change that are universal? That are universal, doesn't matter the religion or anything like that. Are there certain aspects of what you believe in that you prize more than this? Okay? So let's just call them values for right now, okay? So we'll call them values and principles. That's a whole nother discussion. How about your heritage? Sometimes people value that. One of the things that she mentioned was her special talent. She says, I have special talents that are unique to me. I call that unique ability. We'll just put a UA there. Unique ability, those things that are unique to them that only they have, okay? So unique ability. And I called these their core assets or their core wealth. So this is core. Corazón, things in your heart, the things that are core to you. I said, are there other assets that you value? And they said, well, yeah, there's education. And so I said, well, let's call those assets experience assets. How valuable to you and to your success is your reputation? Is that an asset or a liability? Hopefully, it's a tremendous asset. The greater that asset is, the reputation, the greater the value is for you. So experiences like reputation. What about good experiences versus bad experiences? Which one do you learn more from? Unfortunately. But what we learn, always make your learning greater than the experience. So we have experiences. Okay, what about alliances? Okay, education, all kinds of education. Skills, etc. So we made a big list of things that were here. And then we have one blank quadrant right here. And this one was kind of key to the whole thing. And you're going to see then, when I summarize the six things that I talked to you, you're going to see that we talked about all of them as we went through here. And this one, we ended up calling it contribution. Now, our governments have a definition of contribution. Money that we want to give back to do good for society, and they call it what? Taxes, okay? Taxes, are they an asset or a liability? Oh, if you're an accountant, it's a liability. Why do we consider it a liability? Because we don't believe in paying taxes. We don't believe in supporting other people. We don't believe in supporting our government. We don't believe in having our roads paved. We don't believe in these things. Why do we not like taxes? We did a survey in 2001 of Fortune 400 companies, families, and they came back and said the number one thing that was important to them was choice and control. more important than anything else. Choice and control. So why don't we like taxes? Because we lose what? Choice and control. That's why we don't like it. So we started trying to really understand, what is contribution? Well, contribution is that when you're all done with this life, when you leave this life, do you want to be someone that has consumed more than you've created? Or do you want to be someone that's created more than you've consumed? Okay, imagine if every person on the planet had the same attitude. Now, what kind of an attitude do you want to instill in your children and your grandchildren and future generations, whether they're your own or others? What is it that you want to instill? That they consume more than they create, or that they create more than they consume? Are they entitled, or are they empowered? That's really the difference. Are they entitled, or are they empowered? So the whole idea here is then, how do we make them givers, the creators? How do we make them creators that are grateful creators? This is all about gratitude. How do we create grateful creators, being able to move forward? So I got to the point where I'm talking to her at this day, and I'm looking at this. This is the first time I'd ever done this. And remember, I was frustrated at the time because I'm thinking, I do all this work. I'm in the estate planning business. I work for all these very affluent families, and yet it's an indictment on our industry if only 3% ever survives that third generation. And I was searching. I had the big question out there, and I'm searching. So as I'm searching, I'm going, wow. So I asked her, I said, when you look at these 4 things here, these 4 here, which ones would you want to make sure which ones would you want to make sure your children got? I said, all of them. All of them. Because if we have surplus here, that means we're doing a good job of creating value in the world. If they have these things going forward, that would be great. I want them to be able to have great experiences, and I don't want them to be entitlers. I want them to be empowered. I want them to be able to get, to give more than they consume, create more than they consume. So all of them. So what if you couldn't give one? What if you had to choose just 3 and had to leave one behind that you could not pass on? Now, I have asked this question since that time at the top of some of the top boardrooms around the world. I have asked this question 1,000 times to entrepreneurs and families around the world. What do you think they say 99.9% of the time? If they had to leave one behind, what would it be? That one. Why do they say that? Exactly. They say it because they know this. If they're bankrupt here, or here, or here, this is going to go away. I tell you that's true. That's my business, what I do. But she says if they're rich here and here and here, this will take care of itself. If you understand how to create value through your experiences, your reputations, your unique ability to take it and put it in the marketplace, if you really understand how value creation happens, if you really understand how to be more creators than you are takers, if you really have that in your personality and you stick to the things that you matter most, this does take care of itself. So when somebody stands up and say money is important, it is important to me only because I know that if I'm going to create a legacy of money that's going to last for multiple generations, I've got to have these in place. I'm not going to be able to do this and die happy. Won't happen. It won't happen. So, what do we do about it? You start to identify for you what is the great why and change the way you make decisions. Because if you understand the great why for you, then you know how that you can say no to the very important so that you can do the essential. Because it's not the very important, it's not the unimportant things that are messing you up, it's the very important things that are messing you up. Because you don't have the bigger future for you. And so that's one of the things that we work with our clients is how do you get that clarity to have that big future that you can start making accurate decisions in the moment. So that you can make the right decisions that go forward. So you can feel the harmony and the balance without the wobble that happens. If you're out of balance in here, you feel wobble. It's like a car that just doesn't, you're just not going to move down the street. Okay, I'm down to 10 minutes. So I'm going to give you something now. Let me just hit on a couple points, and I'm going to come back to something that I have to give you because for the rest of it. Now, I told you always make your past, always make your future greater than your past. always learn from your past. I gave you the example of how we learned from Larry's past. I give you the example of how we learned from these other people's past. So that you have them. Number one is go big, right? Go big means what? Okay. Second one is that make your future is bigger than your past. Okay? Got it? Okay. The next one is make your learning greater than the experience. Okay? Everybody understand what I mean by that? Always make your learning greater than the experience. If the experience in your past does not serve your future, let it go. Everything that happens in your past should serve your future. We do a thing with our clients called time mapping, where we map out the experiences of the past and we figure out how to capitalize those experiences and then document them so that they can learn and contribute to your future. Can you change the facts of your past? Yes or no? No. You can't change the facts. What you're saying is you can change the interpretation of the facts. Or what? We'll go to lunch, okay. You can change your interpretation of the facts, which is probably semantics to what you're talking about. You can change the interpretation of the facts, the learning from the facts, the learning from the things that happened. That's the value that we have as human beings, to really learn how to do that. Fourth is you have to surrender, but don't give up. Okay? 5, so that's 4, that's 3, that's 2. 5 is Pringles. I have to tell you about Pringles, don't I? So, raise your hand if you've ever heard of Coach John Wooden. John Wooden is the greatest teacher I've ever known. He was one of my mentors. He was my business mentor, my life mentor, person I got to spend a lot of time with. He showed me one time a card that he had from his kids that said 7 things for you to remember for the rest of your life, that his dad gave him to him when he went in the 7th grade. Number 4 on that list was read from good books daily, especially the Bible. Drink from good books daily. So I had a chance, since I was working with him all the time, I said, Coach, since you went in the 7th grade, have you drank from good books daily? Have you read from the Bible daily? And he said, Lee, probably not, but I don't remember when I haven't. And I thought, wow, I'm going to do that. So I'm going to start reading from the Bible every day. If I could be as great as him, I'm going to do that every day. So I started reading from the Bible. I took 5 pages a day. Read 5 pages a day, 5 pages, 5 pages, 5 pages. Missed a day. What do you do on the next day? Read 10, right? Now I'm okay again. 5 pages, 5 pages, miss a day, miss a day. Now what do I got to do? Now I got to read 15. Well, I did this for a while, and then I kind of missed, and then I said, oh, okay, I'm going to start over again. Has anybody ever done that? Okay. Raise your hand if you've ever set a goal. Okay, keep your hand up if you've ever set a goal and didn't achieve it. Okay. Keep your hand up if you've ever set the same goal again and didn't achieve it. Keep your hand up and say again if you ever set the same goal again and didn't achieve it. Okay. All right, so put them down. So what's your subconscious saying to you at this point? All right, it's not a good thing, okay? It's not a good thing. So that's what I was saying to myself. What's wrong with you? Can't you keep up with this thing, So I'm feeding my subconscious. 88% of my brain cells are in my subconscious. Does anybody remember what I said the early part of this? How many things a second can your subconscious handle? 11 million. 11 million bits of information every second. Your conscious mind can only handle 20 bits of information every second. Big difference. Big difference. So when I set a goal, my subconscious mind goes, oh, here comes another one. So how do I change that? So now Coach Wooden comes up to me and he goes, Lee, how are you doing about reading those scriptures every day? Oh, I wish you wouldn't have asked me that. Wish you wouldn't have asked me that. I said, well, I told him what happened. He says, why did you set that in the first place? I said, well, because I explained to him. I thought I had a good reason. He said, all right, let me rephrase that. Who would you be? Who would you be if you drank from good books every day? Oh, now that's a powerful question. Who would I be? And then he fed it. Would you be somebody do you feel like you'd have more confidence? Absolutely. Would you feel like you'd be a better father? Would you be a better business leader? Yeah, I probably would. Would you make better decisions? How would that feel? And then he moved me into that emotional space of how that would feel. And I said, wow, that would feel pretty good. That'd feel pretty awesome. And he said, now capture that feeling and then just read 1 verse a day. One verse. He said, Lee, once an object's in motion, it tends to. He says, if you have the vision of who you would be, if you know the essential for you, you see, because if you know the essential, don't let the things that are very important get in the way of the essential. So if you know the essential for you, there may have been a lot of important things that got in the way, but if I really have that understanding of what that means, then I have the ability to say no. And by saying no to other things, it gives me the time to do the things that are essential. And he says the key to it is emotion, is motion. So I thought about that, and I started thinking about these things. And have you ever eaten a Pringle? So you know what happens when you turn this, and you take one out, right? And you eat it. And then you put the lid back on. And you put it away. Not going to happen, right? Not going to happen. So I call them Pringles. So this formula, here's the formula. You have to have the vision. You have to have the vision. The vision is, what is this going to mean to me? And you just because it's this big number that's out there, because it's a goal or whatever, but unless it means something to you. So I set this same thing as in terms of my physicalness. Instead of saying, I want to weigh this amount of weight, I want to do this kind of thing, I want to do this, I want to do so many push-ups a day, whatever it might have been, I got rid of all that. Here's all I say. First of all, what's it going to mean to me to be in physically good shape? I have 13 grandchildren. What's it going to mean to me? It's going to mean that I can run with my grandkids. I ran 13 half marathons last year. I did a goofy, which was a half marathon one day and a full marathon the second day. It is goofy. You know what I mean? I can run with my grandkids. I can throw them in the air. That's what it meant to me. Not losing so much weight. None of that kind of stuff. So the first thing was the vision. Then the next thing is the empowering question, which I have to talk to you about. So some way or another in 2 minutes, 3 minutes, I'm going to have to get to this. I have to talk to you about. Then it's the empowering question. Then it's motion. So how do I get in motion? I put on my workout shoes and do one push-up. That workout shoe and one push-up has led to losing 25 pounds. I feel like I'm in the best shape of my life. I run these marathons. I ran a 198-mile relay race just 3 months ago. You know, and I'm feeling wonderful. I eat better. Everything's better. Because I do one push-up. Do you think I've ever done just one push-up? I don't think so. Once you're down there, you're going to do more. And then you look at your watch and you say, well, I didn't think I had time, but maybe I can do a few sit-ups. And I didn't really think I had time, but maybe I can do a few burpees, or maybe I can go out and run a little bit. You see, it's just accepting the fact that it's important, that it's essential to where you want to go, and unless you have that vision. And then finally, you got to go big. And so you celebrate. Celebration is just an outward display of gratitude. That's all it is. It's an outward display of gratitude. It's a way to go big. And you want to be able to feel good about what you're doing. You don't want to beat yourself up, because if I set a goal to go over to here, where's the horizon? Where is the horizon? Does anybody know? It's right here. It's right here. Can I sneak up on it? Can I sneak up on the horizon? Can I come up there and wait for it to come up in the morning? Does it exist out there anywhere? It's a mental construct. That's where our ideal is as well. We have this vision of the ideal, and we're always trying to get closer to it, but what happens when we move closer to it? It moves away. We get a new ideal. Has anybody in this room ever said, if I only made $75,000, my life would be taken care of? I don't need a lot of money. And then you get closer to it, what happened? You know, it moves on. It's just the way life is. But we end up comparing ourselves forward, and that generates negative energy. Because every time I move forward, that gap is still there. And it's always going to be there. That's the way human beings are. It's a wonderful thing. It's not a bad thing. It's a wonderful thing to have that gap there, or we'd lose our inspiration. But if we're going to complain forward, if we're going to compare forward, then we're always going to have those negative emotions. For crying out loud, I was there, and now I'm here. I was here, and I did one push-up, and now I'm here. Celebrate it. Get those emotions in, no matter how small it is, because it moved me closer to what I want to achieve. Because I have that vision. And that's what I celebrate. Celebration is just an outward display of gratitude. You with me? Okay, we're good? I'm down to 10 seconds. Can I cheat 1 or 2 minutes? Just a couple, okay? Now, so I start every meeting with a positive focus. I have these business entrepreneurs, for example, see a room of 50 high-powered business owners standing up and sharing positive experience that they've had. Okay? It's not uncommon. What happens to them is after they're done to say, I can't believe this. You know, I just had a grandson born 30 days ago. I forgot to write it down. That happens all the time. Remember, I told you they're moving faster than they can go. But so I watched this, but the energy is really good. It's really going. I said, all right, let's do something novel. Let's do something unique. What we're going to do this time, after you get done sharing, and I felt this great emotion, he says, what we're going to do is I just want, you know, we all have things we want to strengthen, so why don't we share something that we want to strengthen? So I said, they said, great. So now this is going on here. I sit down, all of a sudden the energy changes. And I can feel the energy change in there, so I get up and start listening. Here's what I hear. I've got to find a new CEO for my business. I've got to get out and find a new marketplace to get this kind of a thing. I've got to strengthen the relationship with my spouse. And I stopped right there and I said, okay, what is going on here? What really is going on here? What percent of the brain is in your subconscious? 88, they say 83 to 88, correct. I don't know exactly how you'd know, but 83 to 88, somewhere in there. So that's a big chunk of your brain is actually in your subconscious, right? And so your subconscious is here hearing this, what's going on. So what does it hear when it says, I've got to strengthen the relationship with my spouse? It hears, the relationship with my spouse sucks. Because your subconscious mind cannot tell the difference between fact or fiction. Your subconscious mind is here working. It's like soil. It's like the richest soil in the world. And if I put a seed right here into that soil, and it grows tansy, which will kill, or I put a seed, and I put a seed over here that says for an apple tree, and it's going to feed the planet, the soil doesn't care. It's going to nourish both of them equally. True? So it's going to nourish both of them. It doesn't care. It makes no judgment. It just takes care of it. Our subconscious mind works very similar to that. So what we feed into it. So what does it do when I say the relationship with my wife, I need to strengthen the relationship with my wife, that says, and it's going to go to because. And your subconscious mind has a perfect memory, so it's going to, every time it looks at things, it's going to say, well, because she doesn't support me in this, because she doesn't support me in that. And so it has a tendency to start looking for all the things and all the becauses of why things happen. So I said, stop for just a second. Let's see if we can't rephrase this. Let's see if we can't move this and rephrase this in a different way. So we worked with it back and forward. I said, can you do it in the form of a question? So the question became this: what can I do today to strengthen the relationship with my wife? Now, what happened then internally to your subconscious? How many hours a day does your subconscious mind work? 24. If it doesn't, you're dead, right? So it's working 24 hours a day. Your conscious mind, who knows? So your subconscious mind, we know it's working 24 hours a day. So it's now working not to find the problem, but to find the solution. So put it in the form of a question. So there's all kinds of studies. Harvard's got a study out on the word's might, another one, Southern Mississippi, Virginia. For a quick example, let's assume that here's 3 study groups. Group number 1, what we're going to do is give you all of you, we're going to give anagrams. Everybody know what anagram is? Where you have a word, and you mix the letters up, and you get as many words as you can out of that. All right, so we've got group number 1 anagrams, group number 2 anagrams, group number 3 anagrams. 1, you got 10 minutes to do as many as you can do. 2, before you start, you got 1 minute to go through and give yourself the positive mental attitude. I am brilliant, I am strong, I can do these things, I can think things fast, I can find zillions of words in here. 3, all you do is say, can I find words, can I create anagrams? Can I create as many words as possible? Will I find as many words as possible? Might I find as many words as possible? Is my mind sharp enough? Can I make my mind sharp? Can I be able to do this? And you got 1 minute to do those. The studies, this group, identical results. This group, 150 to 200% more words. So now, I don't know how that happens, okay? I don't know how that happens. I'm just we're just researching this, going through it right now. This is all going to be into the next book of what we're doing. But very fascinating stuff, so I started testing this out. I have a wonderful laboratory. I have 300 entrepreneurs that come together every quarter that I can give them assignments to go out and come back and tell me what's going on.
So for the last year, I've had these coming back, and I'm getting amazing stories coming back. Because what they're doing is they're moving away from this, like when you go through this day, don't come out of a meeting and say, I need to go home and do this. Don't do that. Don't say, I've got to go do this. And if you hear somebody else say it, ask them, what's the empowering question? Can I take this information that I just got from Terry Tillman? Can I just take this information I just got from Vishen? Can I take this information and put it to use? How could I take and put this to use? What's the fastest way I could take this to use? How could I make a Pringle out of this? Can I Pringle this and make this happen faster? You see, it's so powerful. My daughter is arguably, she's 17 years old. She's one of the best utility players in the state, softball. She's great, okay? But she hates this one girl. Her name is McKenna Bull because she could never hit her. She's an all-star pitcher, yada, 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 but she hates her. I said, well, you can't hate her just because you can't hit the pitch. I said, do the thing here, do this thing, because I didn't know any better. Do this thing. And start saying, I'm the greatest hitter in the world. I can hit any pitcher in the world. I'm phenomenal. I'm terrific. Nothing happened. And then we got to the end of the year, and we started doing this research, came back, and I said, change that. Every time you think about McKenna Bull, what I want you to think now is I want you to think, can I hit McKenna Bull's best pitch? Can I hit McKenna Bull's best pitch? Start thinking like this. That's all. She got up, first pitch, boom, over the center fielder's head. Now, she didn't do that every single time, but she was confident, and she started hitting. Because you see, the subconscious mind, how many hours of training has she had on how to hit? Thousands. Thousands. And wisdom is pure intelligence before the contamination of thought. And the thought interferes with it. So now she's at the point where she's really, all of that subconscious mind is coming to explore and find out how she can hit. She says, oh yeah, you got all this stuff stored. You got all this stuff stored about how to watch that ball come out of there. You got it all stored on how to twist your hips and all this kind of stuff. Don't think about it. I'll take care of it. Have you ever heard of people being in the zone? They're not thinking about it. It's just happening. And it happens because you get the empowering question. And if you can get the empowering question right, if it's the right question, and that takes some skill, we're learning how to do that. If you can get the right question right, it makes a difference. Last story, and then I'm going to wrap it up. So, the empowering question story. I had the opportunity to speak from 5,000 people at the Bellagio about 4 or 5 weeks ago. And I was scared to death. And the reason I was scared because, I mean, number one, nobody knows who I am. I'm not a public speaker. I speak occasionally. And so, but they rented every room in the Bellagio, every room, every ballroom, everything. 81 countries, people show up. Great company, 25th anniversary. They wanted 3 great speakers to lead up, 20 minutes each, to lead into the founder of the company. The first speaker has been a coach to 5 presidents. The second speaker is the second most downloaded TED Talk ever. And then there's me. Well, And they tell me that somebody told him I'd be a good speaker, and I'm like, well, wait a second. And I'm looking at this, I'm going, whoa. Okay, I got to do this. I got to figure out this in 20 minutes. I got to do this. I got to do this. And luckily somebody said, Lee, what's your empowering question? And whoa, came back to me. Instead of going into that space, I went into this space. I first started as simple as possible. Can I give a 20-minute speech? Secondly, can I give a 20-minute speech that inspires? Can I give a 20-minute speech that inspires this audience to ask a question they've never asked before? Because if you ask a question you've never asked before, you're going to get a result you've never expected. And it's going to give you a different answer, they give you a different result. Finally, can I create a speech? Can I deliver a speech that will inspire this audience to ask a question they've never asked before and prepare them to receive the message from their president, from their founder? And then the answers came in the shower. Wherever they came, they just came. And it went well. It went unbelievably well because I surrendered and I didn't give up on it. And I just surrendered in a completely different way in going into that empowering question. So when you hear it, you're going to hear people saying, when I go home, I need to do this. I got to do that. When I hear these great messages, I got to get out and do this. I got to make this happen. I got to have this happen. Just stop them. Can you rephrase that in an empowering question? It's tough to do. It's tough to do. It's a habit that you've set up for years and years and years. But if you move into that space, It's going to happen. We have a duty. You, each of us, have a duty. All of us have a duty. And that duty is to be the positive force that can recognize the good that's on this planet and develop systems around that and how we can create value. And it's the thinkers, it's the entrepreneurs of the world that are going to change the world. It's not the governments of the world. It's the ones that are stepping out, taking risk, and really making things happen. And if you can find ways to do it faster and better and easier, share them. Share them with me. I want to learn. Because when life's all said and done, when it's all said and done, there's 3 things to life. And 3 things only. They'll all fall under these categories. First is love. Talked about the community. That, remember, they did the story by Seligman, the studies by Seligman and stuff that Vishen showed you, how you built the community. But it's love. It's just love. The second is learning. And if you stop doing either one of those, I'm not sure which one started first, whether you love to learn or learn to love. But they're so important, and they work hand in glove. And the third thing is sharing. Because as you share, you open your arms up, and then you can receive. If you don't share and you go like this, you can't receive. So my message to you today is go big. Go big. Ask the empowering questions. Take one little small Pringle at a time with the vision that you can do, and open up like this so you can give and that you can receive. Thank you very much. Thank you.